Now that you've all heard a little music of Brazil, that you're already thinking about that trip you were going to get. Welcome everyone. My name is Penny Wright. I think we know most of you, and we're delighted to have you all here. Before we even start tonight, I want to mention that Yvette just brought over a flyer that you probably didn't pick up because she just brought it over, and it's for the next program, which is in August, because we don't have one in July, I think. But Lisa Combrick, who was formerly the town attorney, adopted a son from Vietnam, and this past year they took their family and his first trip to Vietnam to meet his birth family. Should be very interesting, and it's on August 17th, my last day of work for the rest of the summer. Anyway, but today's program, as you may remember, was scheduled for, I think it was January or February, a very bad day as it turned out, a day that was the weather was too terrible to actually do this program. So here we are, and so this is our first time to meet Jeanne Schnupp, who, by the way, is a retired business teacher, so we think she probably has her facts straight. She enjoys traveling and learning about other cultures, and is very kind to be here with us to share trips about traveling solo. So please welcome Jeanne Schnupp.
If anybody came in after I handed out the handouts, there's some extras over on the table there. Hello?
No.
Wait, I just pushed it.
It's got to be.
Hello. As you know, my name is Jeanne Schnupp. I'm a retired business teacher who happens to love to travel. And I really appreciate you coming out for a Sightseer travelogue. I do a couple of different kinds of things, and this one is my going solo. I find that a lot of people are a little anxious about traveling on their own outside of tour groups, and I'm here to tell you that it's pretty easy to do. I first started traveling, major kind of travel, beyond going to Lake George for 2 weeks, when I was 16 with my parents. We went to Europe, and we had covered 5 countries in 2 weeks. So it was not exactly my favorite experience, because I felt like basically I was on the way to the airport, at the airport, or on my way back from an airport, and then in a big busy city. So it wasn't my favorite experience, but one place that I did want to get to, again, was Switzerland. It just impressed me so much as we came into Geneva. And then, of course, I got married, we had no money, so we ended up doing a lot of camping, and then the kids came along and still no money, so we did a lot more camping. And then as the kids got older, we learned about cruising and found out that that can be actually more economical than people realize when you can have the kids in the room with you. All the meals are included. And so we got to go a little bit further. We got to Alaska and Hawaii, and we took the North Sea, going through all the countries in the north of Europe. And then the kids grew up and took off on their own, and the ex, well, he went his way too. And I don't know why, at that point though, I felt that's the end of my doing these kinds of trips. I know I'm not alone in that feeling. I can't tell you where it came from though. But I figured, well, all that, and I never did get to Switzerland. Then I was going to meet up with a friend in San Diego. She lives down in Florida, and right before we were due to leave, she got very, very ill. She ended up with pneumonia and landed up in the hospital. So, fortunately for her, she's okay now, and her tickets were taken care of because she had landed in the hospital, but mine were not. So I paid for everything. I said, well, probably going to be a bummer, but I'm going to go on my own anyhow. So I went out to San Diego, rented a car, drove up the coast, kayaked, went into the wine country, went to the San Diego Zoo, which is absolutely incredible. And then I got back to the airport, turned in the car, I was on the plane, I said, I had a great time. I didn't know what I was thinking that, was going to be a problem about it. So I thought about it on the way home. As soon as I got home, booked Switzerland. And I've never looked back. It's been a great experience since. So, how many people here travel on your own? Oh, okay, so we have a lot of people. I will ask you, because this is a very tightened program, it's usually a little bit longer, so if you have things that you'd like to add or questions that you'd like to have, could you please hold them till the end? And then we can make sure we hit all of the topics. And I'd love to hear from some of you. How many of you have thought about it and maybe not too sure about going off on your own? Yep, a couple. Okay, well, let's start off where I like to go is with what's great about traveling solo. Start on the positive. For me, the very first thing is the freedom. I'm not tied to anybody else's agenda. I'm not tied to anybody else's schedule, where they want to go, when they can go, or their budget. And I'm not tied when I'm on a trip with other people to worry about what they want to do. So that's really great. I can go anywhere. I love also the sense of confidence that I get. I like being able to step out of my comfort zone a little bit and then feel a bit good about myself, confident-wise, that I could do it. And I have on my living room window, my living room wall, a really nice big picture of Neuschwanstein. That's the castle that is in Germany that they used to model for the Cinderella castle. And when people come in, they look at that and they say, wow, that is gorgeous. And I say, yeah, I took the picture. So it's kind of like a really good feeling. I also find that when you travel with other people, you tend to focus on those other people. Those are the people you talk with. And you don't seem quite as approachable as you do when you travel on your own. People who are on their own tend to invite other people to discuss with them. And I've met some wonderful people on my different travels. In fact, 2 years ago, I had let people know by the wonders of email, you can keep in touch, and I let some people know I was going to Italy, and then they all kind of landed up, hey, you know what, that sounds like a good idea, I'll meet you. So landed up with 2 people from Wisconsin, 2 from England, 2 from Australia, 1 from Ohio, and myself, and we all met up in Italy. So you do meet people, it's wonderful. It's also a great opportunity for you to take a step back from your regular routine and just relax and enjoy the world around you. And for me, I also like to learn new things, whether it's in the deep south, it's in the north. I'm learning different cultures, and that's really exciting for me to do as well. And I know it may seem counterintuitive, but you can save money if you're going on your own. You may think that it costs you more, but there's loads of ways to save money and be on a budget. And we will have those experiences when we've been with some other people and when we wish we hadn't been, because they were a little embarrassing in groups, unfortunately, sometimes. And that's nice. I don't have to be responsible for anybody else's behavior. I don't have to apologize for anybody else's. So those are the things I think are good. Now, those of you who are a little anxious about the idea of traveling on your own, what are some of the concerns people have? Safety. Safety is number one. That's a big issue. What are some of the other concerns people have? You might think it's more expensive, and that's what we're going to talk about as well.
Will people include me?
Will people include me? That's something else. Will I be feeling a little bit lonely? Right? Traveling alone might be very lonely. It really doesn't have to be if you don't want it to be. On that trip to San Diego, I was at the zoo and I was waiting online. They have a tram that goes around the zoo. And I started talking with this young family. When we got up to the tram, it was all seats of 2. So the husband and the son took a seat together and she said, oh, come sit with me. And so we had a great time chatting throughout the zoo. And I found that a lot. Okay, so it doesn't have to be lonely. Some people think it's also very scary. When people hear that I've gone to Austria all by my little lonesome, they get a little surprised and say, weren't you afraid? You're so brave. And it really has nothing to do with bravery. It just has to do with being clever, doing your research, and being careful. And we'll talk about lots of things involving that. People will pity me. They'll look at me sitting at that table by myself, having dinner, and they're going to really feel sorry for me. Well, I do hate to tell you, they don't care. They really don't. And on those occasions when I do see somebody looking over at me, it's usually not with pity. It's a little jealousy that I notice there. And eating alone is horrible. This is an anxious concern for a lot of people. But it doesn't have to be. There's lots of strategies that I'm going to share with you about how to cope with the eating alone part. And single supplements will kill you. For those people who don't know what a single supplement is, If you are booking a hotel room, a cruise cabin, a place on a tour bus, they're going to charge you per person double occupancy. So they're expecting to get 2 of those per person rates for 1 room or 1 seat on the bus. And if they're not going to get that, they expect you to fork over pretty much most of the difference. And I have great news for you. This is changing. The single supplements, they're getting the message. We are a force to be reckoned with. The solo traveler, I have all kinds of information up here that you can take a look at later, all statistics about how many people are traveling solo now. And so in order not to lose those people, they are making accommodations. And we'll look at some of those closer later on. So now that you've thought about traveling on your own, how are you going to do it? There's a number of ways. You can do traveling, me, myself, and I, which is the first time I went to San Diego, all by my little lonesome. That was the first time. It certainly has not been the last time, and all the others have been by choice. So that's one option. Something that's very popular, I like to call traveling alone together. You find somebody that you're really in sync with, who likes the same kinds of things, on the same general schedule, keeps the same pace with you, but you go separately. You're not responsible for taking care of that person's transportation, hotel reservations, or anything else. You take care of yours, that person takes care of theirs. That first trip to Switzerland, I met a very lovely lady from Ohio whose husband doesn't like to travel, especially by plane, and she loves to. Both of them are retired, and quite frankly, I think they need a week or 2 off from each other somewhere in the course of a year. So she and I ended up doing this several times. We would meet up in a country, either at the airport, at the hotel, and she would have her room, I would have mine. During the day, a lot of times we did stay together. We had a lot of the same interests, but she's a big museum person and I'm not, so she would go off there and I would go someplace else. And at the end of the day, she had her room, I had mine, so you had your space. So that's a really nice way of doing it. Of course, traveling with a tour group is there. When I did that first trip, I thought I'll be the only single on this tour bus. I couldn't have been more wrong. There's a lot of singles on the tours. So they've got some advantages. They've got some very good pluses. They have, if you're going solo and you're trying to cover a lot of things, like say you're trying to do the national parks, that's a lot of driving, a lot of hotels to arrange. A tour might be a good way to do something like that if the logistics are too complicated to do it yourself. That's a great reason to take a group tour. Also, your tour guide is going to know about the places that you're going to and give you some advice on the bus as you're coming into town, and even point out places where you might want to stop and eat. Also, they take care of all the luggage for you. If you're overseas and there's a language issue, generally your tour director will speak 3 to 5 different languages, so they can handle that. If your luggage is lost, if there's a problem with your hotel room, if there's a health issue, any of those things, they're there to help. So there is a big advantage to them. But there's a lot of disadvantages. Anybody take coach tours here that can, what's the biggest disadvantage?
Getting up at 6 a.m.
Getting that luggage out at 6 a.m. And especially if you're one of those tours where you're changing hotels every single night. So that's one of the biggest disadvantages. You also spend a lot of time on the bus. And if it's one of the lesser expensive tour groups, they save money by putting you out in the middle of nowhere hotels. So either you have to take their excursions, which cost a lot of money, or you're pretty much stuck at the hotel with maybe no other option even for dinner. So that's an issue. Those excursions, some of them can be very pressuring as far as getting you to take the excursions, because that's where your tour guide is making a lot of money. He's also making commissions off of that restaurant that he recommended to you. So it might not be the best one in town. And you've got to tip them at the end. You're going to be tipping the bus driver as well as your tour director. And then, of course, some of them hit you with the single supplements. So there's a lot of good and there's a lot of not so good about going with the tour groups. A nice thing to do is what I like to call combination travel, where you're going to have some time on your own and some time with the tour. Whether that's a major tour and you go out a few days early and really get to know a town, because on those tours a lot of times you don't get to know a town. Like I went to Italy, I went out to Milan a couple of days before the tour started, so I could really explore and see places, and then joined up with the tour, and at the end, I left the tour again and went down to the Cinque Terre in Italy. So that's one way. Other ways, what I did last year was nice too, is I went to Austria, stayed a few days in Salzburg, got around to see some of the sites in and near Salzburg that I wanted to do. But there was a tour that I was interested in that took you up to the Bavarian Alps and then down into the salt mines. And that would have been too difficult for me to manage or arrange on my own, so I took a day tour. There's a group called Viator Tours that I like to work with because they are an American-based company, but they hook you up with tour groups in the different regions that you go to. So I could book directly with that regional tour group, but I prefer to deal with an American tour group because then they're subject to our regulations, and if there's any issues, I like to deal with them that way. But I took that one-day tour. You have all the advantages of a tour. You meet other people. You have your whole day arranged for you, and usually everybody eats together on something like that. They all drop you in the same place. So there's advantages to doing that too. So any kind of combination works out very nicely. Regardless of how you're doing it, you're going to need to have a hotel, whether it's completely for the whole trip or just for a couple of days. That's your biggest issue. That's your pivot point. You're not because you're going to spend a ton of time there. It's because that's going to be your safe haven while you're away. So there's a lot of things that you'd like to think about with your hotel before you go booking it. I like to call them my list of priorities. I start out, before you get on the internet and there's tens of millions of things that you're going to read through, what I like to do is make a list first. And then I can narrow it down to exactly what I'm looking for instead of getting lost in the internet someplace. So I like to list my must-haves. And on the handout that I gave you, there's a place where you can list your must-haves or your like-to-haves. If anybody came in after I was handing them out, there's extras on the table over here. So you might want to, if you want to raise your hand, then maybe Yvette could hand them out to you. Okay, there's a few people I know that missed it. Okay, so the first thing to start with is safety. That's the most important thing. You want your hotel to be in a safe place. How do you figure that one out? Well, you can do it by going online. The internet is your best tool. You go online and you Google the name of the town and safety concerns. Or you Google it in local newspaper, and you can bring up the local newspaper and see what kinds of things they're talking about. There's crime in that general area, you'll read about it. So there's lots of things that you can do, and that's my first thing. After that, I have a whole bunch of other things I have to have. There's a lot of hotels out there, and you can find the one that has the magic mix for you. For starters, I like to have a hotel staff that's going to look at me as more than just a number, a room number. I want them to be helpful and friendly so that if I do have any kind of questions or concerns, I know I've got somebody who's going to be receptive to it. And again, I use the email for that. I might email the hotel and say, I'm a single older woman, could you tell me if your accommodations would be a good fit for me? If they write back and they say, sure, all our rooms are great, that kind of leaves me cold. If they write back though and they say, well, we've had a lot of people in those same circumstances. We find they tend to like a room towards the back, away from the street noise. So I have a room on the second floor I think would be very nice for you. That's the one I'm going to be looking for. Do you need a handout? Okay. Another thing is Wi-Fi. I use the internet a lot so that I can be checking out some scenes or things that I might be looking at going to the next day or looking up places to eat or things like that. If you want to be able to use your gadgets in your room, you have to make sure that that Wi-Fi is available. Places might say free Wi-Fi, but it might be one computer in the lobby with everybody in the hotel using it. Especially in small bed and breakfasts, I find this is an issue. So make sure that first of all the Wi-Fi is free, and second of all that you can access it from your room. Very helpful. Also, location. A lot of people think it's great. I'll save a couple of bucks. I'll be just outside of town. Well, if you think about it, everything you want to see is in that old town or that center of town. You're going to waste a lot of time and money each day, bless you, going back and forth from your less expensive hotel. Usually for a couple of dollars more, you can get right in the heart of things. This one here, that circle, is Dam Square in Amsterdam. Everything in Amsterdam radiates out from Dam Square. That little spot, that was my hotel. So every day I came out and I hit the ground kind of running, to everything that I wanted to see, making the very most of my time there. But that being said, you still do want to be close to major transportation. You have to get to the airport or wherever it is that you have to get to, of the places nearby. So you want to be close to the mass transit. Some people don't think about this, a buffet breakfast. I like to have the breakfast included. Breakfast can be your most expensive meal of the day. When you think about going into Manhattan and getting a plate of scrambled eggs and a cup of coffee, that could set you back easily $19, $20. So I like to have it in the hotel. Plus, I don't like to have to get dressed and go out, especially if it's bad weather, just to get a cup of coffee. So I like to have it in the hotel. I can leave my coat and everything in my room and go down and relax and have breakfast. And there's another thing that's usually pretty good about that. You're a tourist in a tourist town. Pretty good chance everybody else online is a tourist too. And maybe they have some good ideas. Last year I was in Salzburg, and this couple at the breakfast buffet said, "Oh, have you been to Helborn Palace yet?" And I said, "Nah, I saw something about trick fountains. I figured it was for kids." And they said, "No, it's something really cool. You should go." I did, and I loved it. It was great. So you can share with the other people. 3-star hotel, I'm all done with roughing it. I did my 20 years of camping, so I'm not going down to a 1-star, but I'm not in the hotel enough to take advantage of like a 5-star hotel's amenities. So I'm good with a 3-star. And I certainly don't need, what was Georgian Amal's had an 11-star rating. I didn't even know they had 11-star ratings. But the 3-star, generally that's going to let you know that it's clean, it's got a reputation for being professional, in a good location. So for me, a 3-star rating is good enough. Cancellation policies to me are also a must, because anything can happen to anyone anytime, and you might have to cancel. So I don't want to be tied into something that's going to now charge me for it. And if you look at the bookings.com or hotels.com, and you see the first rate that comes up for a single room is a little bit cheaper than the one that comes up right after it, all the same description, that's because the first one is non-refundable. And they do not care what your sob story is. It's not happening. You will get charged. You will not get the fee waived. So for a couple of dollars, it's worth that security of having a cancellation up until 24 hours in advance. How many of you like to read the TripAdvisor or Travelocity or any of those kinds of reviews before you go someplace? Okay, they are good, they are helpful. I write for them, and I just got an email the other day that said, "Congratulations, you have had 11,803 views." Really? I somehow doubt that 11,000 people have looked up my reviews, which brings you to the point of the internet. It's a good tool, but it can have its downfall. So if you get that hotel, that rating that says this place should be bulldozed, it's a horrible place, you don't know if it was written by the competition across the street. And if it says it's a wonderful place, don't look anywhere else, it could be written by the hotel staff. So you really need to look at them and read between the lines. See, if anybody just says it's excellent, that tells you nothing. You don't know what their value of excellent is. So I like the ones that will say, "I got there and I really didn't like my room, I had an issue with it, but the staff was very friendly, they gave me keys to a couple of rooms and told me go ahead around and see which one you prefer." That's telling me something about that hotel. And I didn't make that one up. That happened to a friend of mine. They actually gave her 3 sets of keys. We walked around, found the room that she liked. If they tell me that the noise is unbearable at night and there's no air conditioning and the windows only open out to a courtyard, there's no air coming in, that's telling me something as well. And then there's my favorite ones that say, well, if price is your only issue, then maybe it's a good place. Or the ones that say in its heyday, it was probably pretty good, that tells me something too. So you look through and you start to see not just one review like that, you see several. Now it starts to tell you something and gives you a better picture. And I also don't just use TripAdvisor, I'll look at other reviews as I'm going along too and see what kinds of things they're saying. And if I see the same thing over and over, now I pay attention. I also like to get a mini fridge or a mini bar in my room, because you don't realize how much that can save you as well, especially if you're on medication that needs refrigeration. You don't want to be going down and finding somebody at 7 in the morning in the lobby to get your medication for you. So what I like to do is have it there, because I'm a snacker. At night I like to have my snacks. And if you go to the hotel vending machine or the store in the hotel lobby, you can pay $3 for a Coke and $2 for a bag of chips or something. So I take out their stuff, go to the local supermarket, wherever it is, load up on some soda and some cheese and crackers and things, and I have it in my room. A big saver. And a lot of times at the end they'll say, well, we saw that you had touched something in the fridge, you know, we have to bill you, and I say, no, I just used some space, please do an inventory, and you'll find that everything is still there. And they don't do the inventory, but even if they did, I wouldn't mind, because it is a convenience. And bathrooms. When you're making your booking, make sure you see the words ensuite, E-N-S-U-I-T-E. If you do not see that, then you and everybody else on that floor might be sharing the one bathroom at the end of the hallway. That does not work for me. I've had many people come to my programs who said that they do it all the time. A lot of small hotels, that's the way it is, or bed and breakfast, that's the way it is, and they don't mind. I do. So it's a personal preference. I want ensuite, so I know that the bathroom is mine and mine alone for that time, and it's attached to my room. How many of you have traveled to Europe or plan to travel to Europe? Okay. A lot of trends start over there and then they come over here. One of those is when you walk into a bathroom, you say, well, I've heard of people stealing the towels before, but I never saw anybody take the shower curtain. And then you look and you realize there's no rod. There is no shower curtain. This is becoming a popular thing even over here. I don't know if the idea is to save money. I don't know if the idea is to help the environment. But I do know that if you have your fuzzy slippers on the floor, when you come out of the shower, they're going to be wetter than you are. So just be aware of that. And also in Europe, you'll find that they don't use levers most of the time on their facilities. They use a box or a circle system there. And what that is, I was told, little circle, little go, big circle, big go. It's an energy conservation concept. And you will start to see that a lot here, and also on cruise ships, you'll see it. So once I get all of this together, and I have a bunch of hotels that meet these criteria, then I go on to my like-to-haves. And those are the things that are not going to make or break me taking a hotel, but if there's a hotel that has all of this and one of these, I might switch over to one of those. So one thing that's a bone of contention with some people is the safe in the room. It's a nice thing to have, it's a convenience, but it's not Fort Knox, okay? People use a code to lock it. They forget the code. Management can bypass the code. So again, it's not Fort Knox. Some people like to use the safe at the lobby. Again, how many people actually do have access to the safe in the lobby? So my best advice to you on this point is leave it home. If it's not crucial for you to have, don't take it, and then you don't have to worry about it. Leave the jewelry. Nobody cares. You're not seeing most of these people again. Leave it home. Okay? It is a convenience, though, and it's a sort of out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. I'll use it to put my electronics in when I'm someplace. During the day, I'm going out. I'll leave my iPad there or whatever. There is a known scam, especially in big cities like Las Vegas, where people will go around dressed nicely like they're well-to-do tourists, and they'll scope out the floors of the hotel for where the cart is for the cleaning lady. Because those cleaning people don't know the guests by sight. So they'll do a dash and grab. They'll dash in and say, oh, don't stop now, I'll be right out of your way, I just forgot something. They'll grab whatever they see that's expensive and take off again. So if their iPad is out, expensive jewelry sitting out, expensive glasses, sunglasses, they might grab them and go. And the maid would never realize it's not the right person. So for that convenience, it's nice to have. An elevator. Since I'm in a 3-star hotel, I'm the one who's grabbing my luggage and hoisting it up the stairs. So keep that in mind. And I'll try to make sure that I stay only 1 or 2 flights up if there's no elevator. And if there is an elevator, something you need to ask. does it go to my floor? Because you have a lot of places, especially bed and breakfast or older hotels, that had an elevator that went everywhere, and then as time went on, they added to the building and renovated, but they didn't spend the money on extending the elevator shaft. So I do know places where people have been on the 6th floor and the elevator stops at the 4th. So do ask if it goes all the way up. 24/7 service is very nice to have. It's something I found out by accident when I got locked out of the hotel one night. I didn't know they closed up the lobby. And it's lights out and there's nobody there. I was fortunate, I was with somebody and we were able to get kitchen staff to let us in. But we didn't know, and in the future you should look, if there isn't 24/7 lobby service, ask them how you get in. Some places it's the room key, and other places it could be what you thought was the minibar key and it's really the front door key. If you can get a place with 24/7 in the lobby, it's great because that means there's somebody watching things all the time. It's a good level of security. And air conditioning, I like to have my room cool. I'm dying already in here, and so I like to have air conditioning. So if one hotel has air conditioning and the other doesn't, the one with the airco is getting me. All right, so once you get your list of priorities together, then you're going to find hotels that you can go to. If you have somebody that you know and that has the same preferences as you and they've been there, ask them for the name of the hotel. See if you can afford that one and like it, then I would go there. I look at the tour company picks. For those tour companies I can't afford, like Tauk Tours or Grand Circle Tours, and I look where they're putting their people who are paying so much for the trips. And I figure that has to be a pretty good spot to be in. And if I can't afford those hotels, I'll look in the same area for the 3-star hotels. So that's one way of doing it. Online agents, bookings, hotels, orbits, all of those are great. They'll list some additional information about the different hotels that they use, and they'll have a top 10 recommended. But keep in mind, those top 10 recommended are only recommended because they paid to be listed as recommended. In travel blogs, you will find people who write something about everything that they do. So you might find somebody who has stayed at a particular hotel and maybe posted a bunch of pictures, their own pictures, not professional ones, and you can get an idea. Somebody might even have written a second-by-second account of their life in that hotel for the week. So you get some interesting information. Again, you have to be careful and screen it. After you've got a few, you comparison shop. For one thing, ask both the hotel directly and your online. Go through there as well. The reason I say this is because sometimes the prices are different. I'm going to Brussels in Belgium soon, and my Brussels hotel, when I got contacted the hotel, they were actually higher than Expedia. On the other hand, I'm also going to Bruges in Belgium, and I contacted that hotel, and they said, we'll give you 10% less than the Expedia rate. So it's always good to ask if there's any discounts. AARP, Rick Steves is a travel guru. If you have his book with you, that some places give you 5% off. Any of you union. I was a public school teacher, which made me an employee of New York State, therefore a government employee. And so as a government employee, I got a different rate. And for me, every time it beat the other discounts. So always ask. If you have special needs, certainly ask if they can accommodate them, especially smaller places. Don't go by all the same regulations. Also, if you want to have a room in a certain place, I like to be between the 2nd and the 6th floor. That's pretty much the industry standard. You're off that main floor where somebody could, from the outside, get in, but you're also low enough that in an emergency it's a bit easier to get out. So I like 2nd to 6th floor. I also like to be near, but not on top of the elevator. There's better lighting, but I don't want to be so close that I hear people waving and talking for the elevator and hearing it going up and down the shaft. So think about the things that you like. Additional fees. Ask them if that fee that you see there really is the final fee. Are there additional taxes that could add up? If you're driving, you may need to have parking, and that might add up too. Sometimes it's $25 a day. If you're there for a week, now you're talking money. And the bigger hotels here, especially in Vegas and places like that, if they have a pool and a workout center, now they're hitting people for a resort fee. Up to $35 a day, whether you use the resort features or not. So ask if that's your final thing. And if you are traveling out of the country, make sure you're speaking the same language. And that would be, If it's 75 a night, is that $75 American, or is it 75 British pounds sterling, which is about $1.77 to $1 American? So you have to really factor that in. Alternate dates, if you can be flexible, think about when it might be cheaper in that area. Because, for example, if you're going to a place that caters to businesses and has a big convention center, they empty out during the weekend. So it might be cheaper to arrive on a Friday. So ask, what's better? Is there any difference if I arrive on a Friday or on a Monday? All right, and ask them if they, I called Salzburg last year and in October, and they told me, oh, we're all booked for July. How can that be? And she said, well, that's because it's the start of the Salzburg Festival. If you could have come the week before, much cheaper and lots of room. Guess what? I changed it. Originally I was going to Vienna first and Salzburg second. Went to Salzburg first and Vienna second. So find out. Also, see if you can look at the location. There's so many ways to say there's a lot of webcams out there now that you can access. So you Google the town or the area around the hotel and the webcams, and they'll come up and you can get an actual visual. Or you can go to Google and you go into Google Maps. There's a little orange guy in the corner. You bring him up where your hotel is, and it will give you a look at what that hotel was like at a certain point in time, so you can judge for yourself. This was my hotel in Amsterdam. And the things I noticed, there's the intersection for Dam Square. So I really was footsteps away. But the hotel's footsteps could have been different than mine, but I know I really am that close. I saw the awning, and I said, that's a nice extra feature. I really like that. Shows they're going the extra mile for people. I saw bicycles that aren't chained to anything. I saw people walking around, look pretty respectable, and I saw that it looked pretty clean. So that was okay for me. There's been times I've done this, and in the pictures I've seen overflowing dumpsters. I've seen gates and bars on all of the doors and windows. I've seen graffiti all over the place. Might be a nice place, but I just don't think I would feel comfortable in that area. Very easy to do, something you can check. Then if you do all that and you find a single room that you can afford, then go ahead and book it, because there are less single rooms than there are doubles and triples. And the good news is you have that cancellation policy there. So if you find something better in the meantime, you cancel and you book the other one. So that's the ways of doing it. And then you have to look at other things to stay safe with. One thing is to have a plan. Have a list of plan A's and a plan B's in case a plan A is closed. And that way you have something else to put right in. You're not wasting your time trying to figure something out. It's not that you're going to stick to it rigidly, but you do need to have some idea of what you want to do. And also it's a good idea to know your way around town. And then you feel a little bit more comfortable and you're a little less vulnerable. One of the things I like to do is when I arrive someplace, I'll make a map for myself from my bus stop to the hotel. Because if you think about people coming off the bus or the train, and they've got their luggage, and they've got this ridiculously large street map with minuscule writing for the names of the streets, and then you can't even see the street names because maybe they're not visible, you have a problem. I come off, and this is all I have. A little tiny map that shows exactly where I have to go with the step-by-step directions. It is super simple to make one of these in Google Maps. And I have a tutorial on my website that anybody can use with pretty little pictures that walks you right through the whole thing. But you come out, you've got this, you're very confident, you can take off. Also, it gives me something when I'm doing a walking tour. What I'll do is I'll pin the different places. That helps me realize how close some things are. Maybe I want to schedule them on the same walk instead of crisscrossing a street and wasting time and energy. Also, it gives me something to take to that person at the desk and say, this is my plan for the day. Since you live locally, any suggestions of something I should include? Or are there areas that you would recommend that maybe I shouldn't go into? So it helps you. Past that, keep in mind, you are a tourist. I love the people who say, try not to look like a tourist. I have news for you. If I'm in Manhattan and there's a whole bunch of people with their cameras up to the Empire State Building, I know that they're not New Yorkers, as diverse as New York is. Okay, so you're going to look like a tourist. The best thing you can do is be realistic about it. Make sure that you're using your common sense. You're a tourist in a tourist town. You are a mark for people. So try to make yourself less vulnerable. It's not a guarantee, but if you do make it difficult for them, they hopefully will move on to someone else. My brother has the distinction of having been robbed over 140 times in New York City. Fortunately for him, it was his job at the time. He was an undercover cop. But it shows you how frequently it can happen. So do some things that make sense to you. I see people with the backpacks all the time looking forward to taking those pictures. Totally vulnerable. First of all, as far as the backpack goes, I like something that has lots of pockets, so I'm not taking everything out and putting it on a counter someplace. I'm keeping everything in separate areas. Also, I have this one has a place that's under Velcro, behind the zipper, and underneath I can get down to where I put my wallet underneath the jacket or something. So it's a little difficult for people to get to. I never leave the shoulder straps without my hands on them, because people do go by with razors and cut them off. Or they do go by and they can cut underneath the bottom, but in this particular bag they have to be really precise and know just where that wallet is. There's so many different sections. But the reality is, if I'm taking pictures in a place where I'm a little bit nervous, find a wall. Back up against the wall, a tree, a pole, anything while you're taking that picture way up of a glockenspiel or whatever. All right, so nobody's going to get behind you. If I'm in an area I'm really not that sure about, it comes around and it goes on the front instead. So I can hold it like this. And if I'm in a busy subway or something like that, that's the way I'm wearing it. And if I'm in a place where I really do not feel safe, I leave everything at the hotel except for bare necessities, and I put it in here, my room key, my phone, and those kinds of things. I keep it underneath my desk. So there's all different options that you can use. And a lot of people don't think about this, a door jamb. When you're in your room at night, it's pretty easy for somebody to slam in. What's the purpose of a door jamb? To make sure that door doesn't move. So a 50-cent door jamb, jam it in, and if they try to nudge and it's not going anywhere, hopefully they will move on down the road and leave you alone. Little practical advice there. Think about the time of day for arriving and leaving. Yes, it is a lot cheaper to fly the red eye, but do you really want to go into New York City for the very first time at 2 in the morning? I think if they don't want to do it in New York, they're not doing it in any other city in the world. So try to think about what time you're getting there, when it's busy. Also, make copies of everything. Your identification, your medical coverage cards, your credit cards, front and back, your health, any kind of prescriptions, glasses, all of those, and people's phone numbers. You don't know anybody's phone number anymore. They're all on speed dial. So if something happens to your phone, you can't call home. So that's something to make copies of everything. I make 2. One goes in my carry-on, one goes into my luggage. Trust yourself. Hopefully you haven't gotten to this age by being stupid. So if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. If you think you're being followed, get someplace busy. Go into a hotel lobby. Go into a store. Walk around. If that person still seems to be following you, speak to the manager. I do touch base with home. I don't call. I leave my phone when I travel overseas on airplane mode, so excuse me, I'm not building up roaming charges. And besides, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to be out and doing things. But I do email my kids to let them know that I got there, and halfway through I'll email it, especially if I'm changing hotels, and let them know. They have my itinerary. If they don't hear from me, then they know to call the hotel and say, look, my mom hasn't checked in, she hasn't answered an email. Could you please just check to make sure she's okay? Simple precaution. Check all the advisories, not just terrorist ones. Check for environmental. See if you're going to Hawaii, if that volcano is still erupting. See if you're going to be using transportation. Find out if they're expecting a transit strike. Check all the advisories. Know the culture. Do not create problems where none exist if you had just simply known about the place you're going. If you're traveling in the Deep South, they have some very different regulations or expectations than we do. Or if you travel into Europe, some places having a cell phone inside of a restaurant is absolutely not accepted. In Milan, for example, they have a beautiful cathedral called the Duomo. And if you go in there as a woman, you have to have your shoulders covered and your knees. No big deal. You throw a shawl over, you wear capris that day. You do not stand, as an American woman I saw did, arguing with the guy with the big gun, saying, but I only want to go in for a minute. It's not their culture. You can't go, don't cause problems. Things to do before you go, get your identification squared away. All right, whether you're going to Canada, Bermuda, any place, you can't do it with just a regular license anymore. You need to have a passport or a passport card. Leave at least 6 weeks. I have some passport information up here for you that you can take a look at. And if you have one, check it. They expire after 10 years. So kind of that can creep up without you realizing it. I talk to everybody. If I hear somebody at the gym saying to somebody else that they just went to Belgium, I'm going to pop in there and say, hey, I heard you just mentioned Belgium. You mind telling me a little bit about it? People love to talk about their trips, so they'll tell you some things. I also watch YouTube videos. If you're thinking of taking a trip down the Mississippi, maybe somebody's already videotaped that, put it up on YouTube, and you can take a look and see, is it as picturesque as you think it might be? So a lot of YouTube videos, some of them will have pictures of hotels too. Contact the Department of Tourism, which is different than a travel agency. They are run by the government, wherever they are, and they have lots of different kinds of things that they can give you. Maps, local coupons, a lot of different kinds of brochures that you're not going to get from a travel agent. I have some up here that you can take a look at later to see. Here's a computer teacher. Google fun things to do, in quotes, locks that as a complete phrase. So if you say, I want to go to Tennessee and fun things to do, you will only get sites that have all of that. Cuts down tremendously on a waste of time that you do when you're searching. So it could be off the beaten track things, it could be museums, whatever it is, it cuts down a lot on the searching time. Notify your credit card company. It is important because it is a safety feature for you. If they see a lot of activity outside of your local area, they could put a hold on your account if they can't get a hold of you. Happens all the time to my daughter. She lives in Tampa Bay, forgets to tell her when she's coming home, and they contact her, and then if it is her, she has to give all the information so that they know it's okay that that card's being used. If you're traveling where they can't reach you, this could pose a big problem, so make sure that you do have it. And there's a new chip technology in credit cards. If you're traveling to Europe, a lot of places will not accept American credit card without the embedded chip. If you need to know more about that, please see me afterwards. Estimate how much things are really going to cost. Everything, even nickel and diming. I like to snack, I factor that in. You can really run through your budget pretty quick if you don't. And make sure that you know how long something's going to take. I had friends come from England, and they wanted to see a few things in the city. Things I hadn't actually seen: Ellis Island, Empire State Building, and Statue of Liberty. You go on their websites under FAQ, frequently asked questions, and they will often say, allow 3 hours for this exhibit. So that's very helpful. Book anything that you absolutely totally want to see online, so that you're not disappointed when you get there and that you can't get in. It's worth it. You have to get there at a certain time of day, so that's a disadvantage, but the advantage is you will get in. You're not going to wait on a long line, get to the front, and they have no more viewing times for that day. All right, if you're going overseas, order some currency ahead of time so that you have some of the local currency. Again, not everybody will take a credit card. And spend time in your local library. Read through the books and look at the videos. Learn a little bit more about your places. And feel free to ask questions. When I was traveling between Salzburg and Vienna, I was going to have my suitcase, and I wanted to know if I was going to have an issue with stairs. So I emailed the train company, and they very nicely wrote back, no problem at all. It's a roll-on, roll-off, and there's room, extra room at the back of the car, so you might want to take that. That helps. Password protect all of your devices. That should be, even if you're not going away. If you lose those phones or they're stolen, people have access to far more information than you think they do. And then if you're all set to go, now you're going to be packing. And you carry on. Make sure you have a change of clothes because they can lose your luggage. They do it all the time. My daughter flies direct from Tampa, and they lose her luggage. Any medication, keep that with you, and your glasses, even if you have contacts. If your glasses are in your suitcase and your suitcase is lost, you have a problem. All electronics, don't pack those, especially the chargers in case you're stuck in a layover. Hand sanitizer, I think that's a given for those trays on the plane. Baggies, my daughter had a knee surgery and her knee started flaring up on a flight. They had ice but nothing to put it into. So it's one of those kind of jack of all trade things to bring with you. And of course, the information about your hotel. You want to have that with you, as well as your money and your identification and your ticket. Everything else goes in your suitcase. I also bring bubble wrap because my kids are older and I'm bringing back things like bottles of wine and stuff like that. A little bubble wrap, put it in the baggie, and it travels pretty well. And of course, any kind of backup copies that you have. Be careful, lighten up. They are very strict about the weight allowance. And that's another good thing about traveling by yourself because nobody's there to say, didn't she wear that green shirt the other day? And make sure that you do bundle them up. Some people ask me about the locks, the TSA locks. I feel they're probably just as easy to pick, but that's a personal preference. What I use instead, going along with the idea of make it difficult, twisty ties on the zippers, and then I wrap the whole thing with a belt. That keeps it, if the zip is burst, that's going to keep it intact, and I can see it on the conveyor belt as it comes down. Just make things difficult. I tuck them underneath. Some other travel tips, if you're going overseas, learn at least how to say hello, goodbye in their language. They'll switch over to your language because they don't want you to murder theirs, but at least be friendly. Bring your own toiletries. A lot of places now don't offer them anymore to save money, or they offer you one thing that does everything. A gel, that's your shampoo, your conditioner, your body wash. Bring your own. Load up on apps. There's walking tour apps that you can have instead of being on a regular tour group, and you can start and stop it whenever you want. I also have a show that's just on apps and websites now because there's so many out there. If you're going overseas, learn how to tell temperature and distance in metric system. They're the two big things you're going to want to know. Very quickly, it's not completely accurate, but close enough for a traveler. If it's Celsius, 20 degrees Celsius, you double it and add 30. That's 40, 70 degrees, you decide if that's comfortable. So temperature, double, add 30. Kilometers, you go the other way. Break it in half, and then add back 10% of the original. So if it's 50 kilometers, half of that's 25, 10% is 5, that's 30 miles. As much as I like to walk, I'm taking the bus. Buy something right away if you are traveling overseas so that you have loose coin, and that way if you do want to tip somebody, you're not giving them a whole €5 or something like that. And do consider travel insurance, especially if you're traveling out of this country and you're on Medicaid, Medicare, because it's not even honored in Canada. So I do have information on my website and links for you to look into travel insurance. And I pick up local flyers. How many people do you think go to the Hamptons with a guidebook and really know all the places to go that are going to be great? Right? They come out here. Do they know about the farmers markets? Do they know about the little bands? They don't. So think about that. And a go bag is important for any place, any hotel that you're going to. My backpack works as my go bag. It has a little flashlight on it. Everything's in there, my passport, my wallet. So if something happens to that hotel at night, I just grab that and I go. I am not tied to running around the room trying to gather things. I think I'm running out of time, so I won't be upset if anybody leaves, but I'll continue on quickly. Eating alone, big concern for a lot of people. There's ways that you can get around it. If you do like to sit in a restaurant, that's a great time to pull out your travel journal or to look at what you're going to do next week, the next day, or to chat up the wait staff because they're locals. They'll know some things. I joined a walking tour that ended in a Wiener Schnitzel dinner. So by the time you got to the end, everybody knew everybody and we all hung out together. Or I like to grab something and sit out and people watch. I'm there to see things. So I'll grab a gelato and sit out in the pedestrian zone. And places like buffets, where you take your tray and you go to these long tables where everybody's there. Or cafes are nice because they have small tables. I did some research this year in a very heavily pedestrian zone. They had lots of cafes, and I was trying to figure out who was single and who wasn't, and I couldn't figure out because they all had the great equalizer. Everybody was on a cell phone. Nobody was talking to anybody. How to save money, hit the supermarket, both for your snacks, but also for some souvenirs. Over here in Wallbounds, I went to Southampton t-shirts, and I'll bet you they're a lot cheaper than if you bought them in a souvenir shop. So you can get a lot of good things that way, wine, chocolate. Public transportation, as in New York City, it's cheaper to take a train than it is a taxi. So think about that, and a lot of places have bundled passes for 24, 36, or 72 hours, and they even get you into museums, so it's worth looking into those. Single supplement options, I have a list here of several companies that have dropped it or reduced it. If you go out of season, sometimes they waive it altogether. There's some companies that specialize in it. That's also on your handout there. And you have, some places will match you. They'll put two people together, the same age, same gender, same background. And that way you each pay the single. That's a personal choice. I know people who said they've done it and it's worked wonderfully. I saw two people ready to kill each other by the end of the tour. One actually slept on the balcony one night. So think about it. Ask your locals, where's the cheaper places to eat, things like that. And in Europe, it's hard to find a free bathroom, so look at the places that want to keep you. Public libraries, big hotels where they don't know who's staying there, restaurants, department stores. Usually those bathrooms are cleaner and cheaper. So if this is your very first time, I suggest you do a simulation. Take a short trip away from home, but act as though it's 1,000 miles away. Don't hang out chatting on the phone. Really see if you can get by and if you've enjoyed it before you go and go too far. You have so many places. You have the Jersey Shore, you have Rhode Island, Mystic you could go to. Go ahead and book a guided tour and take advantage of meeting a lot of other singles if this is your very first time. Try finding somebody who's in sync with you and go with them. Pick your destination carefully. Do not go all exotic your very first time. I have a friend who went to India and really had issues with some of the true third world problems there, like flush toilets and the same kind of food, which was very different food than he was used to. So I would pick some place for the very first time where you're more comfortable with the language, or stay in the States and do something here. If you go to Europe, England, or a place where you know that they're going to speak the language and have similar foods and customs. Don't overdo it. Don't try to fit too much in a day. If you're out during the day, doing a lot of walking around, rehydrate, things like that. Be careful. Stick with who you are, especially if you're on a group tour. If you try to be the life of the party on that tour, you're going to be the one that gets told we're leaving at 11 o'clock when they're really leaving at 10. And remember to enjoy yourself. Here's some words from others. I like this one. I travel by the 4 Ps. Passport, plastic, pills, and pants. You got that? You're all set. And I like to end with the words of Dr. Seuss, bless you. Sometimes you don't appreciate the moment until it becomes a memory. And so I suggest you always treasure those celebrate the memories and treasure the moments. So I would like to thank everybody for coming. I know I kind of barreled through because I'm used to having an hour here. Thank you. If you would like, thank you very much. If you would like to try that map for yourself, under my Going Solo on my website, you have the tutorial there. You'll see I also do destination travelogues where I take you into a particular place. And I have all different kinds. I have flyers up here. You can see them for different countries. I also have recipes for each country because I like the concept of associating our senses. And so that led to actually 2 books. And now I do presentations where I give out samples and talk about the culinary habits of countries and show some pictures from those countries. If you'd like to go to one of my other travelogues, they're all posted under my travelogues place here, where you can see where I'm going to be, when I'm going to be, what the topic is.